the government would have known in the past few weeks about the extra charges. But what we've been told from talking to former prosecutors is that for extra charges to be levelled under the Terrorism Act, it can often take much longer to build up the evidence base.
Now, across many of the front pages this morning is an artist sketch of Axel Rudakubana. He's the 18-year-old accused of murdering 3 young girls in Southport in July. He is now facing 2 new charges of having a terror manual and the poison ricin. These are being treated as separate offences. Downing Street has had to deny allegations of withholding information after various claims of a cover-up on social media. Both Conservative Leadership Party candidates have demanded an explanation of what the government knew and when. Let's get the facts, just the facts, with the Times Home Affairs correspondent Matt Dathan. Good morning.
Good morning.
Just go through the new charges for us, please.
Yeah, the 2 extra charges. So this is in addition to the charges that were levelled against him in August of 3 murders, 3 counts of murder and 10 counts of attempted murder. Yesterday, Merseyside Police announced 2 extra charges. One under the Biological Weapons Act, which relates to finding possession of the toxin ricin, and the second charge was possessing a study of an Al Qaeda training manual, and that was under the Terrorism Act 2000. And it's important to say that the attack itself is still not being treated as a terrorist incident, because the threshold for that is much higher. To be labelled a terror incident, the attack would have had to be an attempt to advance a political, religious, racial, ideological cause, along with the intent to cause violence. And the police said that there was not evidence to prove that he had the intent of a terrorist.
Right. What do we know about the timeline then, crucially, of when this information came to light?
When the police charged the suspect, originally it's understood that they had not conducted the search of the home, and therefore the extra charges were not levelled against him at that time, because the search had not been taken place. So the BBC is reporting this morning that the Attorney General was informed in the past few weeks, because the Attorney General has to approve a charge under the Biological Weapons Act. So the government would have known in the past few weeks about the extra charges. But what we've been told from talking to former prosecutors is that for extra charges to be levelled under the Terrorism Act, it can often take much longer to build up the evidence base, because you've got to obviously find the electronic manual. You've got to potentially translate it. You've got to then prove that the suspect's fingerprints were on it and prove that he owned it. So it can take several weeks, if not months, to build up that case.
Okay, and just finally, actually, in terms of the timeline of the court appearance, the suspect is going to appear in court today over a video link, and the actual trial starts in January. Is that right?
I think so.
Okay.
So yeah, today he will appear at Westminster Magistrates Court, where to face those 2 additional charges.
Okay, Matt, thank you very much for that. That is Matt Dathan. He's the Times' Home Affairs correspondent.
And the context of this is that the trial starting in January is the critical thing, because you might have all sorts of opinions about this and how people treated it at the time and what happened subsequently and the timelines and all of that stuff. You may have a very strong opinion on that, but you don't know until the trial happens. And anything you say or we say could compromise the fact that trial could exist at all.
But what Matt did there actually was a question that I had, which was just about the timeline, which is about, what happened again, trying to talk generally between the search and people knowing. And obviously this is something that takes an awful lot of long time. It's not just a case of picking something up and a charge ensues from that, issues from that. There's a lot of police forensic work, obviously, that goes in.
But the Tory leaders think there is a political gain to be made here. That's just worth pointing out very clearly. Both Robert Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch have come out and saying that there's been a cover-up by Keir Starmer. The reporting so far this morning is that it appears the Attorney General found out sometime after the summer, but before now. which would suggest the cover-up didn't exist at the time when people said it did. But we will get into that when we can report it fully, I think. And we're going to talk to the Times' lawyer after 8 o'clock to try and explain precisely what contempt of court means around all of this, so you can understand what is right to be discussed now and what should wait to be discussed. Doesn't mean it will never be discussed, but wait to be discussed after the cessation of judicial proceedings.
I want to ask you about the Southport attacks story. Of course, bearing in mind that this case is live, the man charged with the murder of 3 girls in Southport is also facing separate charges: possession of the biological toxin ricin and material relating to the militant Islamist organisation Al Qaeda. Robert Jenrick wants an explanation as to why facts were withheld from the public. Now, you're the MP for Liverpool Riverside. Bearing in mind what I've said about it being a live case, surely the public are entitled to know the facts.
You see, Asma, what I would say, I am the MP for Liverpool Riverside. We did receive a briefing from Merseyside Police yesterday. It was the first I'd heard about it. But as you say, it is a live case. And I don't want to say anything that might prejudice the case going forward, because what we want more than anything is justice for the families of those 3 little girls that were murdered in the summer.
Kim Johnson, thank you for speaking to us. Kim Johnson is the MP for Liverpool Riverside.
Today, the Crown Prosecution Service has authorised Axel Rudakubana, aged 18, from Lancashire, to be charged with 2 further offences. Axel Rudakubana already faces 3 charges of murder, 10 charges of attempted murder and 1 charge of possession of a knife, all relating to the incident at Hart Street on the 29th of July 2024. The 2 further offences relate to evidence obtained by Merseyside Police during searches of Axel Rudakubana's home address as part of a lengthy and complex investigation which has been ongoing since the 29th of July. The additional charges are the production of a biological toxin, namely ricin, contrary to Section 1 of the Biological Weapons Act 1974, and possession of information, namely a PDF file entitled Military Studies in the Jihad Against the Tyrants, the Al Qaeda Training Manual, likely to be useful to a person committing or preparing to commit an act of terrorism, contrary to Section 58 of the Terrorism Act 2000. Rudakubana will appear at Westminster Magistrates Court by video link tomorrow. Following announcement of further charges, today, I want to reassure the communities of Southport and the communities of Merseyside that we are committed to getting justice for the families of Bibi, Elsie and Alice, the 10 victims who were injured at Hart Street and the other 16 people who were present on that day. We are also committed to being open and transparent with our communities. However, I am sure you will appreciate that we also need to make sure that we do not prejudice this trial. You may have seen speculation online that the police are deciding to keep information from the public. This is certainly not the case. We have been given extensive guidance by the Crown Prosecution Service in relation to what we can say publicly to ensure the integrity of the court proceedings are protected. And therefore we are restricted in what we can share with you now the proceedings are live. Following the events of Monday the 29th of July, searches of Axel Rudakubana's home address resulted in an unknown substance being found. Testing confirmed the substance as ricin. We have worked extensively with partners to establish that there was a low to very low risk to the public, and I want to make that reassurance clear today. I can also tell you that there was no ricin present at Hart Street. When ricin was discovered, all necessary steps were taken so that we could be sure that no one was at risk. This was a multi-agency response. Expert advice and guidance was received and adhered to throughout the investigation. In the days following, Merseyside Police worked extensively with our partners, including Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service, North West Ambulance Service, Sefton Council, West Lancashire Borough Council, Counter-Terrorism Policing North West, Counter-Terrorism Policing Headquarters, the UK Health Security Agency, the Crown Prosecution Service, NHS England, the National CBRN Centre, the Defence Science and Technology Laboratory and the Ministry of Defence to identify if there was any risk to victims, local communities and specialist professionals in attendance at Hart Street and Old School Close. At this point, it's particularly appropriate to recognise the support that we've had from our colleagues in the emergency services, local authorities and counter-terrorism policing. That support has included forensic experts and digital investigators, and that support has been in place since the initial stages of the investigation and continues. I want to reassure our communities that we will continue to work in partnership with all of our partners, and we are absolutely committed to keeping our communities safe. At this time, counter-terrorism policing has not declared the events of the 29th of July a terrorist incident. I recognise that these new charges may lead to speculation. The matter for which Axel Rudakubana has been charged under the Terrorism Act does not require motive to be established. For a matter to be declared as a terrorist incident, motivation would need to be established. I would strongly advise anyone against speculating as to the motivation in this case. The criminal proceedings against Axel Rudakubana are live, and he has a right to a fair trial. It is extremely important that there is no reporting, commentary or sharing of information online that could prejudice these proceedings. I want to remind everyone that the trial is scheduled for January next year. Since the 29th of July, my officers and staff have been working diligently in conjunction with colleagues from counter-terrorism, and they are continuing to assess evidential material which we have recovered to ensure all the evidence is available to the Crown Prosecution Service, and the details of the case will come out in court. My plea is to be patient. Don't engage in rumour and speculation. Don't believe everything you read on social media. We must not lose sight of the families of Elsie, BB and Alice, who are still grieving, and the families and those victims who were present at Hart Street on the 29th of July. We need to do the right thing to ensure that the justice process is not prejudiced. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Tim Atkins, and I'm a Senior Scientific Advisor for the Defence Science and Technology Laboratory, DSTL. DSTL is part of the Ministry of Defence, dedicated to delivering high-impact science and technology for both UK defence and homeland security. Our role is extremely wide-ranging, providing vital scientific support not just to the armed forces, but also to the police and various other agencies in the event of a chemical or biological incident. That level of support ranges from deployed scientists attending incidents to analytical and testing support based at our laboratories at Porton Down in Wiltshire. Before going any further, and on behalf of everybody at DSTL, I'd like to express our deepest condolences to the families who've lost precious loved ones and to everyone suffering the consequences of this tragic incident. DSTL's role is to identify hazardous and deadly substances and to provide scientific advice and expertise. Firstly, so the police and law enforcement agencies can deliver justice, and secondly, to enable public health authorities to keep people safe, a role which is hugely important to everybody at DSTL. As a strategic national asset, we are unique in the United Kingdom, a sovereign capability that delivers sensitive science directly supporting protection of the public. Within DSTL is the chemical and biological response capability. This world-leading capability works routinely and directly with emergency response services including the police, during an incident to ensure responders can identify and understand the dangers associated with highly hazardous chemicals and biological substances. From the outset, the full spectrum of DSTL's capabilities has been provided to Merseyside Police. This included scientific advisors, myself included, and supporting staff providing advice on the ground and at the Joint Command Group in Liverpool. It also included unrestricted access to our analysis laboratories at Porton Down, where a team of scientists undertook detailed examination of the items from this incident to identify the presence of the toxin ricin. At all stages of the incident, DSTL have worked closely with Merseyside Police, with the priority that people were kept safe and to allow the police to respond and investigate as quickly as possible. Finally, I'd like to thank the DSTL scientists for their tireless work in supporting Merseyside Police during this tragic incident and for their dedication to ensuring public and responder safety throughout the United Kingdom. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Renu Bindra. I'm a Senior Medical Advisor at the UK Health Security Agency. And my role includes working with partners from multiple agencies, including the police and the NHS, to assess the risk to the public's health from a wide range of threats and to provide specialist advice. Early in August, we were informed by the police that ricin, a very toxic poison, had been found in the suspect's home. Following this, our agency's experts in health protection and in chemicals, poisons and toxicology immediately undertook a thorough public health risk assessment. This was based on the available evidence and information we received from the police, from DSTL and from the NHS. This information confirmed that there was no evidence that any victims, responders or members of the public were exposed to ricin either as part of the incident or afterwards. Our detailed initial risk assessment judged that the risk to the community and to the wider public was low. As always, when responding to possible health threats, we keep our public health risk assessments under close review. As the police investigation developed, our ongoing assessment was that the risk to the public had reduced even further. I appreciate that this information may be concerning. However, I would like to emphasise that there has been no evidence of ricin poisoning in anyone involved in or connected to this incident. Ricin is not infectious between people, and the risk to the wider public based on the information available has always been low. Most people who have ricin poisoning will develop symptoms within 24 hours, with some symptoms starting even earlier. It is very unlikely that symptoms will start after more than 3 days. Finally, I would like to offer my heartfelt condolences to all those affected by the incident. And our thoughts remain with the families, the local community, and all those who supported the response. Thank you.
That's the end of the full publication briefing, so I can ask everybody to turn off their recording devices and cameras, please, and we'll get ready for the publication. Thank you.